I just want to be debt-free. I'm so glad I'm debt-free. I just want financial freedom and have no more debt at all. Those are some of the sentences we hear from people who have been saving a lot and trying to get out of debt. And in the traditional personal finance education, having zero debt is the goal. You want to have no mortgage on your house, you want to have no credit card debts, you don't want to have any car loans, so on and so forth. So the traditional personal finance is all about getting out of debt, being debt free, and that equals to financial freedom. So before we start the video, I just want to celebrate another success story within Investing Accelerator where I invested in Chef's Warehouse. And that's actually a stock pick coming out of the program from one of the students. So Chef's Warehouse is really a delivery and transportation company for food to different restaurants. So during the coronavirus crash, the stock went down by quite a bit, and I invested at a low price, and right now I have a gain of 40%, and I'm still holding on to it. And so far, I've only held on to Chef Warehouse for around 1.5 months, which is approximately 90 days, and my gain is 40% without using options. So that's a fairly good trade, and a lot of students within the program has profited from it, so we look forward to taking a profit. So welcome back to my channel, and in this video we're going to talk about why having zero debt is actually bad advice for personal finance. And what is OPM, other people's money? So when you're looking at debt, it's really a double-edged sword. It's like learning how to use a knife, and that's probably the best analogy I can give you. Now, when you are a kid, you don't know what debt is, just like you don't know what a knife is. And your parents are worried that if you use a knife, you'll cut yourself. And that makes sense. And that is like the equivalent of making a mistake when you're using debt to invest, for example, in the stock market or the housing market. And if you make a mistake with a knife, it hurts. You cut yourself, it's painful, you bleed. And that is the same thing with debt. If you don't know how to use debt, you use debt incorrectly, you are going to cut yourself and you're going to bleed. Now, sometimes that can be very costly depending on where you cut and how you're cutting yourself. So that's why debt is a double-edged sword. So that is the first level. And if we move on to the second level, then as you grow older, you learn to avoid debt or get out of debt. Just like knives, you learn to avoid knives because you can actually cut yourself. And this is part of the learning process where you go through from ignorance to avoiding certain tools because you know they're dangerous. So you can imagine there's a warning sign on a knife telling that it is dangerous. There should be a warning sign on debt telling you that it is dangerous. And using debt incorrectly is painful. Like I said earlier, it can cost you thousands of dollars. And some of the examples where you can use debt incorrectly can be credit card debt. And that has a very high interest rate. And mostly it is used for personal expense. You're buying an Apple iPhone, you're buying something that doesn't produce money. So when you're doing that, when you're using bad debt, which is actually a term coined by Robert Kiyosaki, so over time, you're going to accumulate a lot of interest, and that leads to more bad debt, and so then you eventually become bankrupt, per se. So in order to avoid that problem, financial advisors are going to tell you to get out of debt, to avoid debt, become debt-free, which is the general direction to go. So that is good because you avoid cutting yourself, you avoid making a mistake, so you don't, cut yourself and bleed. But you're also missing the wonders, the benefits of using debt correctly. So you're also missing the wonders and the benefits of using a knife correctly. And now you are, a grown professional, you're 30 years old, 40 years old, you know how to use a knife, you know you can handle yourself, and occasionally you might still get a small cut, but most of the time, the benefits of using a knife outweighs the cost of using a knife. So now, as a person who knows how to cook, as a person who knows how to use a knife, you know that you cannot use a knife without knowledge. So you need to get your knowledge from somewhere. So whether that is from your parents, your mom, your dad, or from a cooking class where somebody taught you how to use a knife, how to hold it properly, where to cut, how you should shape your hand so then you don't cut yourself and you can cut really quickly. The knife skills that you learn is crucial for yourself to prevent injury. And that is the same for debt. And you cannot use debt without knowledge, because you need to know how to avoid getting a margin called. You need to know how to avoid going bankrupt. You need to know how to maintain a margin of safety when you're investing using debt. And you need to know how to use debt to buy certain things that will pay for the debt instead of use debt to buy things that will not pay for the debt, like an iPhone. So eventually, after you go through the stages of ignorance, you're making a mistake of using debt. You avoid debt because you don't know how to use it. You learn how to use debt, but kind of like a basic knowledge. And finally, the last stage is that you master debt. And now it's like you learn how to cook. You can cut vegetables, you can cut meat, you know different knives serve different purposes, and you can wield the knife to generate benefits for yourself. So that is really the process of mastering a knife. And that is very similar to the process of mastering debt. So the question to yourself is really, are you going to avoid debt all your life? Are you going to avoid, cutting vegetables using a knife all your life? And which is a form of measuring success. People say, well, I'm debt-free, fantastic. But it's like saying, oh, I'm cooking without using a knife, fantastic, yay? So then the other side of the same coin is, are you going to learn how to use debt to your advantage? Because for debt, we already know that the rich people use it. We know that giant blue chip company use it. We know that the government use it, which is called bonds. So what about you? Are you going to use debt? So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please help support me by subscribe, and you can watch the next recommended video here as well. So I'll see you in the next one.